Okay, we got to acknowledge that very cool open that our editor Bobby shot. He's our creative mind behind a lot of things that we do here. So shout out to him. Loved it. It's awesome. Yeah,
pretty cool way to start it, and a good way to get back into things on Still Up with 6 to end the week here on the show. We've had a lot of different discussions this week, a lot of different talkers of the day.
So many.
This one got a lot of comments on our Facebook page today. We have 45 people who have joined us this morning, ready to weigh in, and let's discuss.
Yeah, so we're talking about President Trump rolling out some new guidelines for religious freedom in schools, public schools that is, where they are receiving federal money. He's saying that we need to be protecting the prayer, and we asked this morning, is there room for prayer on public school campuses? That was our big question. A majority of you guys who weighed in said yes, there is. And I went to a school, I went to San Diego State University, which is a public university, where we did have prayer rooms. People were allowed to go and practice their religious beliefs and go pray. Of course, this was not mandated by any teacher or any class. This was just simply to each of his own to go and do it if they want to, and that option was there for them. And I was lucky enough to have that. I thought that's a cool idea for people who do want to, maybe you have a test and you want to go and pray before that test so you do well. So having that option was really cool for me in my college experience.
Yeah, I think the difference here, and a lot of people pointed it out on our Facebook page earlier, which sparked a really good discussion, is that, of course, you have to acknowledge the separation of church and state. If this is something that's faculty-led or if it's mandated, then, you kind of cross into that gray area there. But freedom of religious expression is one of the great qualities that we have here in the United States, and that's why so many people do practice that. And I think that if you're free to do what you want, and if there's some kind of crackdown on prayer in public school right now, I think that absolutely you should be free to, as an individual, go out and express your religious views. And a lot of people, look, you can see this morning, are agreeing.
Yeah, Tobias says no. Tobias, weigh in. Tell us why you don't agree with this in your perspective. We love to hear from both sides of the issue here. It's not always just one-sided. That is why we have these discussions, and we have the live poll. We want to hear from everyone who's weighing in, but it does look like a majority so far from Sid, Mike, Teresa, Marty, Chris. We see your yeses. Regina, Cody, so many yeses this morning. Tell us why as well. Why do you feel like this is important and this should be happening on campuses? I think the biggest thing that you said, Chris, that we can all agree on is that there needs to be a separation, and I don't think it needs to be mandated by the school. I think it should be a personal preference and a personal choice.
Yeah, so President Trump says if they're treated differently than non-religious groups, that's a form of discrimination. And so I think plenty of our viewers out there this morning agree with that. Of course, we want to remind our viewers at home, this is not a matter of mandatory prayer. It's individual prayer and prayer groups that could be student formed and kind of getting together and praying. But this is something it's a matter of religious liberties. But let's see what people are saying. Thomas says, never hurt me praying in school in the 60s and 70s here in England. Some interesting perspective there from across the pond.
Yeah, I think it would be a different perspective from people. A lot more knows if this was something where it was required for students to all do. This is a personal preference and choice, and I think that's really important to reiterate that. And I think that's why a majority of people are saying yes to give that option to students.
Yeah, Chuck says yes it does, and Derek Harris, at least put something positive in the school system other than the different types of bathrooms. That's his opinion this morning. The Constitution says no, and that's an interesting debate, Ron, and thanks for bringing that up. So again, the separation of church and state is a very it's a very contentious debate, but this is not fit into those guidelines. What this is individual prayer.
Yeah, and we're seeing Joey weighing in saying kids have never been told they can't pray. This is stupid. Joey, I think this is more allowing kids to do so without feeling like they can't. I think it's just one of those things we got to address, and I think that's why the president wants to address it and doesn't want to discriminate against religious beliefs. And that's why we're having this topic of discussion this morning.
Yeah, so Joey's saying have never been told they can't pray. Well, according to the president, there's been kind of a crackdown. That's according to President Trump, and that's why he's choosing to do this. So the president says that there's been kind of discrimination against people praying in public schools. So that's why we're having this conversation. And Karen says, yes, it does. It had a place before guns did.
And then Sandy's saying it's always been allowed, just not forced on everyone, which is, I think, the best way to put it. I think, allow it, but never force it. Again, religious beliefs should not be forced upon somebody, I think.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. Ron says you guys are ridiculous. Ron, explain yourself.
Yeah, let's talk, Ron.
Let's have a conversation, Ron, before you just start saying we're ridiculous. Tobias weighing in, necessarily, it always is great to enjoy your religion, but kids should be more focused on school, not religion. Also, there's already houses of prayer. If one wants prayer, then they should do so there or in their own time. I also don't agree on making students who don't want to pray or believe in a deity do so. So yeah, we agree with you, Tobias. This is not a matter of making anyone pray.
No.
This is just a matter of allowing that liberty to be exercised in schools. Now, I can see where someone might be coming from if they say, hey, you know, you want to pray in your own time in school, you should be focused on school.
Yeah.
I can see that perspective as well.
And another comment here. Let's see. Ron weighed in again, but we want to hear from you, Ron, again on why you don't agree with this topic of discussion. Courtesy should go both ways. You said it. It should not be mandated, but it should not be banned either. Banning it only shows bias for the benefit of those who don't believe in prayer and or God. If it will not be allowed, where's the equality? That's coming in from Des this morning, and that's, you know, a perfect point there. It should be allowed, but not mandated. I think that's a big thing that we got to take out of here.
Yeah, and Ron said, so this applies to Satanists too and Muslims. I don't know why you would include those two belief systems in the same sentence, but yes, of course, we're talking about all religious beliefs here. We're not just talking about Christianity or Catholicism, all religious beliefs, and that's what this question is coming from. And
that's why I think the president wanted to address this. It's because I think I think the president wants it to everybody to know that there are different religions that are practiced, and everyone who wants to practice can practice on those campuses and be free to do so. I think that's the part where he said he doesn't want it to be a form of discrimination against the non-religious groups.
Charlie says, is there really a crackdown, or is this just a claim the president is making? You know, it's hard to quantify if there's been a crackdown or not. I don't think there's been any policies really in place, but this is something the president says is happening. People on the left side will claim that he's trying to appeal to the evangelical base ahead of 2020, but people on the right side might claim this is actually happening.
And let's see, as long as there are tests in school, kids will pray. That's coming in from Michael. Yeah, maybe that's what I said, is maybe, you know, you have a big test, you want to go and pray before, hoping you do well on it. You're now going to be allowed to do so.
Mariah makes a good point. I think it should be allowed to let those wish to participate but it can be a place where they can learn about other religions if they want to as well. I think that that's an interesting point. School is about learning and open your eyes to a different worldview. And you can learn about different religions. Now, you don't have to practice them, of course, but you can learn about them, see what that culture is all about, and maybe pray in your own belief system, or not, if you choose not to.
That's a good point. I know my campus in college, there were religious groups that would inform people about their religion if they were interested, of course. And I thought that was a cool way, because they would, you know, get together in like a quad area, and they would all get together, and different groups would discuss different beliefs, and I thought that was very educational.
Yeah, some different comments coming in right now, but certainly an interesting discussion, and it has a lot of you talking right now online. We'd like to hear more of your perspectives, what you guys think about it all, because it's really kind of jump-started a good conversation here.
It really has. I like Jacqueline's comment. Yes, everyone should feel free to pray if they'd like. You never know what someone is going through, and a little prayer could help get them through their day. That is such a good point. Sometimes, you know, you forget about the things that kids go through, whether they're being bullied or they're just having a rough day. Maybe stepping aside, saying a little prayer could really help them get through their day. That's a great point. I enjoy that one.
And this is from Jeff. The modern myth of separation of church and state. Prayer is protected speech per the pre-political, natural, and protected individual rights in the Bill of Rights. Of course, yeah, prayer is a protected right within the Bill of Rights. The separation of church and state is a different discussion. That's when prayer would be mandated of a certain belief system within public school system. Yeah,
that's a good point. We're getting so many comments about this talker, and I think a lot of the comments are echoing our live poll. At last check, 84% said yes, they do agree with this, while 16% said no. But I think we're seeing so many great perspective, and I think we can all agree at the end of the day, a lot of the comments at least can agree that as long as it's not mandated, people should have the right to practice their religious beliefs.
Yeah, certainly a great discussion.
So on a lighter note, let's talk about this desk, right? So we've heard about stand-up desks, right? They're supposed to help you, you know, keep your blood flowing. What do you think about this desk here? You can lay down.
This is a lay-down desk. Now, this would be good for our hours because we're still trying to wake up in the morning when we're going through our scripts, going through the shows, talking about the show. If we can just still get a little bit, maybe a little bit of rest in. while I'm going through the shows.
I
wouldn't mind
know if I'd
it.
get back up, though, in time for the show.
You don't think so?
No, this is dangerous. And it's expensive, too. If you're interested in getting one of these desks for your office, $7,650 is how much it's going to cost you.
That's a lot of money to shell out just to lay down for a little bit.
Just to lay down, yeah.
I don't think I would be very. I don't think I'd be very productive.
No, I wouldn't either. So here's the thing. New studies revealing what most people are most likely to splurge on in 2020. And number one is a fancy dinner. That's followed by travel, snacks, electronics, and health and wellness. A fancy dinner. I think fancy dinners go a long way. Sometimes you need a good meal.
Sometimes it's good to step out and spend a decent chunk of change on a good meal if you can afford it, of course, if you budgeted for it. I'm with you, though. The travel, snacks, electronics, health and wellness, and fancy dinners. If you were to look at my bank account, those are all things that I'm spending money on. Yeah, that sums it up. And pet stuff. And
pet stuff. You can't forget the pets. Yeah, but fancy dinner, yeah, if you can't save up for it, splurge on that in 2020. Why not? One meal, at least. I mean, it's worth it. It goes a long way. It'll make you feel good just to step out and try some good food.
What would you say your top 5 categories of spending are?
Spending. Definitely food.
Okay.
So groceries, and I know we did a little study on that earlier this week. Groceries is number one spending, I think.
Clothing? You got a new dress alert every single day here on Texas Today.
Clothes is number 2. 3 would be like things I don't need, like new shoes or junk, like just little things that I buy here and there. You know, you go to Marshall's, it's a
Dennis
problem.
Dennis is with me. He said pet stuff, of course. Yeah.
Pet stuff, yeah.
Pet stuff can catch up on you. Before you're buying the food, you're buying the toys. Well, maybe this, and maybe a new collar, maybe a new harness. Before you know it, you're spending hundreds.
Yeah. No, I mean, it really does add up, the pet stuff.
Yeah, it can really add up. Well, I think we've had a really good discussion here on Texas Today. Plenty of you have been weighing in. Thanks for weighing in and having a good conversation. I think that a lot of you have a lot of very good perspectives, and you open our eyes. And we have these conversations in real time. We can learn from each other. We can have these discourses and kind of see where different people are coming from.
Yeah, I love it, especially when we're talking about something a little bit more serious like we did today with everything happening with the praying on school campuses. I think it's always nice to hear from you guys at home because, you know, from 4:30 to 7, we're kind of talking to each other, but from 7:05 to 7:20, it's a conversation with all of you guys at home, so it's awesome.
Absolutely, and a lot of people still weighing in. We want to thank you guys all, Jose, Dennis, Thomas, Debbie. Thank you guys so much for weighing in on our conversation here on Still Up with 6, and we will see you Monday morning right after the show at 7:05 after Texas Today.
Yeah, but until then, have a great and safe weekend.